The suffocating scent of lilies, a cruel mockery of celebration, clung to the air in the Mo family estate. Nanan's reflection stared back at her, a ghost in the ornate mirror. Her mother's voice, sharp and insistent, echoed from the doorway. "Mu family is all here, why haven't you changed clothes yet?" A tremor ran through Nanan. Changed clothes? To what? To become a sacrificial lamb adorned for the slaughter? She swallowed, the lump in her throat thick with unspoken resentment. "Mom, do you really want me to marry your sister's fiancé?" The words tasted like ash in her mouth. The image of Mu Tingxia, his face a canvas of scarred tissue, flashed before her eyes. "He's a monster, they say. Cruel and unpredictable." Her mother's sigh was a practiced performance. "Nanan, don't start this again. It's for the best. For the family." The familiar refrain, a cage built of duty and obligation. Nanan's fingers tightened around the edge of the dressing table, the polished wood cold against her skin. For the family. Always for the family. But what about me? A wave of nausea washed over her. She wanted to scream, to claw at the walls of this gilded prison, but years of ingrained obedience held her captive. The flurry of activity surrounding the wedding preparations was a blur of silk and whispers. Each well-meaning aunt, each gossiping cousin, added another layer of pressure. "He's a good catch, Nanan," one chirped, her eyes flitting nervously away from Nanan's gaze. "You're so lucky," another declared, her voice laced with a false cheerfulness that grated on Nanan's nerves. "Lucky? To be tied to a man I fear. To a man who hides his face from the world." The first few encounters with Mu Tingxia were like navigating a minefield. His silence was heavier than any shouted condemnation. His eyes, when they met hers, were dark pools, reflecting a pain she couldn't fathom. He barely spoke, his responses clipped and formal. She caught glimpses of him, fleeting moments when his guard was down, and the raw vulnerability in his posture made her chest ache with a strange, unfamiliar empathy. "He's not a monster," a small voice whispered in her mind. "He's just broken." Jian Wan, her sister, flitted through the preparations like a venomous butterfly. Her smiles were sharp, her words laced with subtle barbs. "Sister, you look pale," she'd murmur, her eyes glinting with malicious amusement. "Are you perhaps having second thoughts?" "Don't worry, I'm sure Mu Tingxia will be gentle." Nanan knew the truth behind Jian Wan's sweet facade. She knew of her sister's secret liaison with Mu Tingxia's cousin, a clandestine affair fueled by ambition and greed. This marriage was a pawn in Jian Wan's game, a stepping stone to power. One evening, after a particularly brutal argument with her mother, Nanan found herself wandering the echoing hallways of the Missouri estate. Tears streamed down her face, hot and bitter. "Mom, I'm your real daughter, please help me one more time." The plea was a desperate whisper, lost in the cavernous space. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Mu Tingxia. His presence startled her, and she stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a cry. "So ugly, who are you? Don't you know who you married?" The words tumbled out, fueled by fear and resentment. He flinched, as if struck. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken emotions. Then, he turned and walked away, his gait stiff and uneven. Nanan watched him go, a strange mixture of shame and pity swirling within her. Over the next few days, the tension in the house crackled like static electricity. Arguments erupted, accusations flew. Nanan found herself caught in the crossfire, a pawn in a game she didn't understand. One night, during a heated exchange with Mu Qingfang, Mu Tingxia's imposing father, Nanan was shoved, her body hitting the hard floor with a sickening thud. Pain shot through her arm. She cried out, more from shock than injury. Mu Chen, Mu Tingxia's brother, rushed to her side, his face etched with concern. He helped her up, his touch surprisingly gentle. "Are you all right, Nanan?" he asked, his voice soft and reassuring. His unexpected kindness was a balm to her raw nerves. "He's not like the rest of them," she realized, a flicker of hope igniting within her. He wasn't the cold, calculating individual she'd initially perceived. There was warmth in his eyes, a genuine empathy that she hadn't seen in any other member of the Mo family. Later that night, Mu Chen sought her out. He spoke of his brother, of the hidden traumas that had shaped him into the man he was today. He revealed whispers of a dark family secret, a truth that threatened to shatter the carefully constructed facade of the Mo family's respectability. Nanan listened, her mind reeling. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, revealing a picture far more complex and sinister than she could have ever imagined. The whispers, the veiled threats, the strange glances exchanged between family members, it all pointed to a truth that had been buried for years. A truth about her own parentage. A truth that connected her to the Mo family in ways she could never have foreseen. The revelation hung in the air, a chilling premonition of the storm that was about to break. The heavy silk curtains of the Mo family estate muffled the city's clamor, but not the whispers. Nanan could feel them clinging to her like cobwebs, sticky and suffocating. Each averted glance, each hushed conversation amongst the servants, was a testament to her perceived failure, a bride unwanted by her grotesquely scarred husband. She traced the intricate carvings on the antique dressing table, the cool jade a stark contrast to the burning shame that crept up her neck. "He doesn't even look at me," she thought, the familiar sting of rejection tightening her chest. "Does he despise me as much as they say?" The days bled into nights, each marked by a chilling formality. Meals were a silent affair, punctuated only by the clatter of chopsticks and the occasional throat clearing from Mu Chen, Tingxia's brother. Chen, with his easy smile and solicitous inquiries, seemed the only one who treated her with any semblance of warmth. As if he were assessing her, what are they hiding? She wondered, questioning persistently beneath the surface of pleasantries. One evening, towards the sound, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She caught Tingxia in her study, shards of porcelain scattered around his feet, dashed green and blue. He didn't cry out, he didn't even flinch. The stark white of his knuckles, the rigid set of his jaw, spoke volumes. "Let me help you," Nanan murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, his gaze unervingly intense, and for a fleeting moment, she saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath the stoic mask. He didn't refuse. As she cleaned the wound, his silence was a heavy presence in the room. The antiseptic stung, and he hissed softly, the sound unexpectedly human. "It's nothing," he said, his voice rough, as if unused. "It must have been a precious vase," Nanan ventured, trying to break the suffocating tension. He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Precious things are easily broken." His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. Nanan felt a strange pang of empathy. He must have had a tough time all these years, she thought, a shift in her perception taking root. Perhaps he wasn't a monster, just a man trapped behind a wall of pain. Later that night, scrolling through the endless stream of online gossip, Nanan stumbled upon a particularly vicious post. It detailed her supposed rejection by Tingxia, embellished with cruel exaggerations and outright lies. Her breath hitched in her throat, a cold dread spreading through her limbs. Beneath the post, a comment caught her eye: "Wedding night, I bet you don't want to stay with a cousin." The cryptic words resonated with something she'd overheard Jian Wan whispering to a shadowy figure in the garden a few nights prior. The figure, she now realized with a sickening certainty, was Tingxia's cousin. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying clarity. Jian Wan wasn't just spreading rumors, she was actively sabotaging her marriage. Confronting Jian-wan was like staring into a venomous serpent's eyes. "You think I did this?" Jian-wan hissed, her voice dripping with false innocence. "The online rumors, the whispers, the lies, it's all you, isn't it?" Nanan accused, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "You don't think everyone is as nasty as you?" Jian-wan retorted, her eyes flashing with malice. "Besides, what can you do? You're already trapped." Nanan felt a surge of defiance. She wouldn't be trapped. She wouldn't let her sister win. But as she turned to leave, another notification popped up on her phone. A photo of her, bruised and disheveled after a staged accident orchestrated by Jian-wan, accompanied by a new wave of online vitriol. The rumors were escalating, spinning out of control, and Nanan knew, with a chilling certainty, that she was caught in a web far more intricate and dangerous than she could have ever imagined. This wasn't just about her marriage anymore, it was about uncovering the dark secrets that festered beneath the gilded surface of the Mo family, secrets that Jian-wan was clearly willing to exploit to get what she wanted. The fear was a cold knot in her stomach, but alongside it, a new resolve began to harden. She would fight back. She had to. The ornate clock in the Mo family hall ticked with an almost mocking precision, each second a hammer blow against Nanan's fragile composure. Sunlight, filtered through the expensive stained glass, painted the marble floor in kaleidoscopic hues, a stark contrast to the chill that permeated the air. She could feel their gazes, the Mo family, a silent, judging jury. Her fingers twisted in the folds of her silk dress, the fabric a whisper against her skin, yet offering no comfort. "They think I'm weak," she thought, the words bitter on her tongue. "They think I'll break." "You're married into the Mo family now, Nanan," her mother's voice, sharp as shattered glass, sliced through the tense silence. "You must do your duty." Nanan's jaw tightened. Duty. A word that had shackled her for so long. A gilded cage built on obligation and sacrifice. She looked at her mother, searching for a flicker of genuine concern, but found only the familiar mask of cold ambition. "Is this all I am to you? A pawn in your game?" Jian-wan, her sister, stood beside their mother, a picture of serene innocence. But Nanan knew better. Beneath that placid exterior lurked a viper, coiled and ready to strike. Jian-wan's eyes, bright with a calculating gleam, flickered towards the hallway where Mu Tingxia's brother, had just disappeared. Nanan's stomach churned. She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that Jian-wan's involvement with Mu Tingxia's cousin ran deeper than anyone suspected. This marriage, Nanan's sacrifice, was merely a stepping stone in Jian-wan's ruthless climb to power. Later that evening, Nanan found herself alone with Mu Tingxia in his study. The room was dimly lit, the shadows clinging to the heavy furniture like secrets waiting to be unearthed. He sat by the window, his profile etched against the twilight sky. The disfigurement that had initially repulsed her now seemed a mark of vulnerability, a silent testament to some unseen pain. He hadn't spoken a word since dinner, and the silence between them stretched, taut and heavy. "Interesting, don't think everyone is as disgusting as you," Nanan blurted out, the words escaping before she could stop them. She instantly regretted her outburst, her cheeks burning with shame. He turned, his gaze piercing, and for a moment, Nanan felt a flicker of fear. But then, something shifted in his eyes. A flicker of surprise, perhaps, or even understanding. He didn't respond, but the silence felt different now, less oppressive, almost shared. The following days were a whirlwind of hushed conversations, furtive glances, and veiled threats. The Mo family, like a many-headed hydra, seemed to close ranks around her, each member whispering their own version of the truth. Nanan navigated the treacherous currents of family politics with a growing sense of unease. She felt like a fly caught in a spiderweb, each struggle only tightening the silken threads. One afternoon, a visit to the hospital with Mu Chen revealed another layer of the Mo family's carefully constructed facade. The sterile scent of antiseptic mingled with the cloying sweetness of the flowers sent by well-wishers, creating a nauseating blend. As Mu Chen smoothly deflected questions from a concerned doctor, Nanan watched him, a cold knot forming in her stomach. His kindness, his concern, felt staged, a performance for an unseen audience. "What are you hiding, Mu Chen?" she wondered, the question a silent echo in the sterile room. The tension escalated when news of a possible public scandal reached the Missouri estate. The rumors, like wildfire, spread through the hushed corridors, igniting whispers and speculation. Nanan overheard snippets of conversations, fragments of accusations, each one pointing a finger at her past. What have they done? She thought, her heart pounding in her chest. What lies have they spread? That night, driven by a desperate need for answers, Nanan confronted her mother. The confrontation took place in the cold, impersonal grandeur of the Mo family dining room, the remnants of a lavish meal untouched on the table. "Mom, I met someone Wyazonian like this." Nanan's voice trembled with suppressed fury. Her mother's face, usually composed, contorted in a mask of rage. "You dare question me?" she hissed, her voice laced with venom. "You're nothing but a burden, a stain on this family." "You're right," Nanan retorted, her voice surprisingly steady. "If I'm unhappy someday," the words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threat. Her mother's eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed into slits. "She's a fool," she muttered, her voice barely a whisper. And in that moment, in the raw, unguarded expression on her mother's face, Nanan saw the truth. A truth so shocking, so devastating, that it shattered the fragile foundations of her world. "Your real father," her mother spat, the words dripping with contempt, "is not Jiang." The revelation hung in the air, a poisoned arrow piercing Nanan's heart. The room spun, the ornate chandelier blurring into a dizzying kaleidoscope of light and shadow. The Mo family, her past, her future, everything she thought she knew dissolved into a chaotic swirl of uncertainty and betrayal. The Missouri estate sprawled like a slumbering giant, its gray stone walls reflecting the muted sunlight. Inside, Nanan traced the intricate patterns of the carpet with her slippered foot, the silence heavy with unspoken words. Each creak of the floorboards, each rustle of leaves outside the window, seemed to amplify the tension that had become a constant companion. She glanced at the closed door of Mu Tingxia's study, a knot tightening in her stomach. Their marriage was a fragile construct, built on obligation and shadowed by secrets. He was a mystery, his face hidden behind a mask, his emotions concealed behind a wall of formality. "Does he regret this as much as I do?" she wondered, the thought a bitter taste in her mouth. Days bled into nights, marked by stilted conversations and strained silences. Nanan found herself drawn to the gardens, seeking solace in the fragrant blossoms and the gentle murmur of the fountain. One afternoon, she found Mu Chen there, sketching in a worn leather-bound notebook. He looked up, a warm smile gracing his features. "Lost in thought, sister-in-law?" Nanan offered a hesitant smile in return. "Just enjoying the fresh air." She watched as he returned to his sketching, his hand moving with a practiced ease. He seemed so different from his brother, so open and approachable. But is it genuine? A nagging voice whispered in her mind. Later that evening, during a tense family dinner, Jian Wan's laughter rang out, brittle and artificial. Nanan observed her sister, a knot of unease forming in her chest. Jian Wan's eyes glittered with a strange intensity as she exchanged glances with Mu Chen across the table. What are they planning? The thought lingered, a dark shadow in the back of her mind. Nanan found herself increasingly drawn into conversations with various members of the Mo family, each interaction revealing another piece of the puzzle. An elderly aunt hinted at a tragic accident years ago, an event that had cast a long shadow over the family. A distant cousin spoke of Mu Tingxia's reclusive nature, his withdrawal from the world after the incident. The whispers and half-truths only deepened the mystery surrounding her husband and his family. One night, as Nanan sat alone in her room, a soft knock echoed through the silence. It was Mu Tingxia. He stood at the threshold, his masked face unreadable. "I made soup. Want some?" His voice was low, almost hesitant. Nanan's heart fluttered unexpectedly. She rose, her movements stiff. "Thank you," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. As she followed him to the small dining area, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, the carefully constructed walls between them beginning to crumble. The soup was surprisingly delicious, a warm broth filled with delicate vegetables. They ate in silence, the only sound a gentle clinking of spoons against porcelain. "You're shameless, teasing me again and again," Jian Wan's voice, sharp and accusatory, shattered the fragile peace. Nanan froze, her spoon clattering against the bowl. She turned to see Jian Wan standing in the doorway, her face contorted with anger. Beside her stood a young man, his features vaguely familiar. It was Mu Tingxia's cousin, the one she had seen exchanging glances with Jian Wan at dinner. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Mu Tingxia's hand tightened around his spoon, his knuckles white. "Jian Wan, this is not the time," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Oh, isn't it?" Jian Wan's laughter was harsh. "I think it's the perfect time. Nanan, did you really think you could steal him away from me? Did you really think you could marry into this family and pretend everything is normal?" Nanan's mind raced, trying to make sense of the scene unfolding before her. Steal him away? What is she talking about? She glanced at Mu Tingxia, searching his masked face for answers. The following days were a whirlwind of accusations, confrontations, and revelations. Jian Wan's carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing the extent of her manipulations. She had been using Nanan, leveraging her marriage to Mu Tingxia to further her own relationship with his cousin and gain a foothold in the powerful Mo family. One evening, amidst the chaos, Nanan overheard a heated argument between Mu Chen and his father. "Hey, Dad, you came home yesterday. Who brought you back?" Mu Chen's voice was sharp, laced with suspicion. "Why do you care? And why am I in bed?" "I clearly slept on the sofa last night," Qing Fong retorted. Nanan's blood ran cold. The casual mention of someone bringing Qing Fong home, the confusion about where he had slept. It all pointed to something sinister. What are they hiding? She felt a growing sense of dread, a premonition that the truth was far more dangerous than she could have imagined. In the midst of the escalating conflict, Nanan found herself drawn to Mu Tingxia. His vulnerability, hidden beneath his mask and aloof demeanor, resonated with her own sense of isolation. One night, she found him sitting alone in the garden, staring at the moon. She approached him hesitantly, her heart pounding in her chest. She sat beside him, the silence stretching between them. "Your skin feels really nice," Mu Tingxia said suddenly, his voice barely a whisper. He reached out, his gloved hand gently touching her cheek. Nanan froze, her breath catching in her throat. The unexpected tenderness of his touch sent a shiver down her spine. In that moment, something shifted between them. The carefully constructed walls began to crumble, replaced by a fragile sense of connection. The climax arrived unexpectedly, during a tense family gathering. As accusations flew and secrets were revealed, a shocking truth emerged. Nanan's parentage was not what it seemed. She was not the daughter of the Jian family, but the illegitimate child of Qing Fong, Mu Tingxia's father. The revelation sent shockwaves through the room, shattering the already fragile foundations of the Mo family. Nanan stared at Qing Fong, her mind reeling. He's my father. The thought was a physical blow, knocking the air from her lungs. She looked at Mu Tingxia, his masked face unreadable, and saw a flicker of pain in his eyes. The carefully constructed lies and deceptions that had held the Mo family together began to unravel, threatening to expose their darkest secrets. Nanan, caught in the crossfire, realized that she had a choice to make. She could succumb to the chaos and despair, or she could fight back, reclaim her identity, and forge her own path. As the storm raged around her, a spark of defiance ignited within her. She would not be a victim. She would not be silenced. She would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The jade pendant felt cool against Nanan's skin, a stark contrast to the simmering anger that coiled in her stomach. Another hushed argument, another veiled threat from her mother about duty and obedience. The aroma of ginger and garlic, usually comforting, now felt cloying, suffocating. Why is everyone giving me a hard time? She thought, picking at the steamed fish on her plate. She could hear the clatter of mahjong tiles from the next room, the rhythmic click a jarring counterpoint to the turmoil inside her. Mu Tingxia sat across from her, his presence a silent, imposing weight. His face, partially hidden by the shadows cast by the flickering overhead lamp, remained an enigma. He rarely spoke during these tense family meals, his silence amplifying the underlying tension. Nanan glanced at him, a flicker of resentment mixing with a strange, nascent curiosity. "What's Mom cooking today?" The question, seemingly mundane, was a desperate attempt to break the suffocating silence. "Braised pork, your favorite," her mother replied, her voice laced with a saccharine sweetness that Nanan found increasingly unsettling. "Eat more, Nanan. You need your strength." "Strength for what? To endure another day of this charade? To play the role of the dutiful wife to a man she barely knew, a man whose touch sent shivers down her spine, not of desire, but of unease?" Later that evening, as Nanan sat on the balcony, the cool night air a welcome reprieve from the stifling atmosphere of the house, she saw Jian-Wan slip out into the garden. Her sister's movements were furtive, her silhouette disappearing behind a cluster of fragrant jasmine bushes. Nanan's heart tightened with suspicion. What was Jian-Wan up to? She recalled the whispers she'd overheard, the hushed conversations about Mu Tingxia's cousin, the one who frequented gambling dens and racecourses. "This Mu Den seems like a playboy," she mused, a bitter taste rising in her throat. "Following your cousin means a life of lonely widowhood," she thought, picturing Jian-Wan alone and desolate. The image, though uncharitable, brought a strange sense of satisfaction. The following days were a blur of strained pleasantries and veiled hostility. Nanan found herself increasingly drawn to the estate's library, a sanctuary of quiet amidst the chaos. Surrounded by towering shelves filled with ancient texts and leather-bound volumes, she felt a sense of peace she couldn't find anywhere else. One afternoon, while browsing through a dusty genealogy book, she stumbled upon a portrait of her grandmother, a woman she'd never met. The woman in the portrait had the same almond-shaped eyes as Nanan, the same high cheekbones, but there was something else, something unsettlingly familiar about her, a resemblance to someone within the Mo family. A cold dread washed over her as a terrifying thought began to take root. That night, she confronted her mother. The conversation was short, brutal, and punctuated by her mother's tearful denials. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew with every passing hour. Nanan's world, already precarious, began to tilt on its axis. The next evening, Mu Tingxia found her in the library, her face pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. He stood silently for a moment, his presence filling the room with a strange energy. "You know," he said, his voice low and husky, "the truth is like a caged bird. Sooner or later, it will find its way out." His words struck a chord within her. He knew. He had to know. The realization was both terrifying and strangely liberating. Tell me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. He stepped closer, the faint scent of sandalwood clinging to his clothes. He reached out, his hand hovering over her cheek. She flinched, expecting a touch that would repel her, but his hand never landed. Instead, he gently traced the outline of a single tear that had escaped her eye. You are stronger than you think, Nanan, he murmured, his voice laced with an unexpected tenderness. The days that followed were a whirlwind of revelations. The whispers Nanan had overheard about Mu Tingxia's past, the rumors of a tragic accident that had left him scarred, both physically and emotionally, began to coalesce into a chilling narrative. And then came the bombshell, the revelation that shattered the fragile facade of her family. She learned the truth about her parentage, a truth so shocking, so devastating, that it threatened to unravel her very being. She sought refuge in the gardens, the familiar scent of jasmine now tainted with the bitterness of betrayal. Mu Chen, Mu Tingxia's brother, found her there. He spoke in soothing tones, offering comfort and support, but his words felt hollow, his eyes too knowing. Nanan recoiled from his touch, a deep-seated instinct telling her to keep her distance. I want freedom, she declared, the words a defiant cry against the gilded cage she'd been trapped in. The look on Mu Chen's face was a mixture of surprise and something else, something darker, something that sent a shiver down her spine. Later, she found Mu Tingxia in his study, the room dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of pipe tobacco. He was staring out the window, his back to her, his silhouette a stark outline against the fading light. He turned as she entered, his eyes filled with a sorrow that mirrored her own. It's time you knew the truth, Nanan, he said, his voice heavy with unspoken words. And in that moment, the world as she knew it crumbled, replaced by a terrifying, exhilarating landscape of secrets and lies, a landscape she would have to navigate with a strength she never knew she possessed. The antiseptic smell of the hospital clung to Nanan's clothes, a stark contrast to the cloying sweetness of the lilies that choked the Mo family estate. Days blurred into a restless haze. Mu Chen's solicitous presence, his hand hovering just shy of touching her arm, felt like a coiled viper, ready to strike. Each carefully chosen word, each concerned glance, seemed to conceal something sharp and dangerous. She watched him, a knot tightening in her stomach, wondering what game he was playing. He knows something, she thought, the words echoing in the silent chambers of her mind. He knows something about Tingxia, about me, about everything. She'd barely spoken to Tingxia since their wedding night. He'd retreated further into himself, a ghost haunting the edges of their opulent prison. The disfigurement that marred his face seemed less a physical flaw and more a reflection of the twisted secrets that festered within these walls. Nanan found herself oddly drawn to his silence, recognizing a kindred spirit in his isolation. A jarring ring shattered the strained peace. It was Jian Wan. Nanan hesitated, her thumb hovering over the accept button. Hey, what made you call me? She answered, her voice flat, betraying none of the turmoil within. Just checking on my dear sister, Jian Wan's voice dripped with false sweetness. Nanan could almost see the smug curl of her lip. How's married life treating you? You're now Mrs. Mo, after all. Nanan's grip tightened on the phone. It's fine, she replied, the word tasting like ash in her mouth. Fine. As if anything in this gilded cage could ever be fine. Don't sound so thrilled, Jian Wan chuckled, the sound grating on Nanan's nerves. You'll get used to it. Think of all the advantages. The unspoken implication hung heavy in the air. You'll do anything to marry rich. The accusation, though unspoken, struck a raw nerve. Nanan knew what Jian Wan thought of her, what everyone probably thought. A desperate climber, clinging to the Mo family fortune. But the truth was a tangled web of obligation, fear, and a gnawing sense of unease that she couldn't quite articulate. She ended the call abruptly, the saccharine poison of Jian Wan's voice lingering in the air. The oppressive silence of the Missouri estate pressed in on her, suffocating her. She needed air, escape. She found herself wandering towards the sprawling gardens, the scent of jasmine heavy in the night air. A figure emerged from the shadows. Mu Ching Fong, Tingxia's father, his face etched with a perpetual disapproval. Nanan, he greeted her, his voice a low rumble. A word. He led her to a secluded corner of the garden, the shadows deepening around them. His words, when he spoke, were like ice shards. You are a mo now. You must behave accordingly. Your actions reflect upon this family. Nanan's heart hammered against her ribs. What does he know? She met his gaze, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. I understand my responsibilities, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. He studied her for a long moment, his eyes like chips of flint. Then, a slow, chilling smile spread across his lips. Good. Because some things are best left buried. The cryptic words hung in the air, a veiled threat. Nanan shivered, a premonition of something terrible settling over her. She excused herself, fleeing back to the suffocating safety of the house. The encounter left her shaken, the fragile facade of normalcy crumbling around her. Later that night, she found herself drawn to Tingxia's study. The door was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the hallway. She hesitated, then pushed the door open. Tingxia sat at his desk, his back to her. He didn't turn. Nanan, he acknowledged her presence, his voice low and strained. She stepped inside, the air thick with unspoken words. Tingxia, she began, then stopped, unsure of what to say. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of their shared secrets. He finally turned, his gaze meeting hers. I know you don't belong here, he said, his voice barely a whisper. The word struck her like a physical blow. He sees it too. The realization brought a strange sense of comfort. She wasn't alone in this gilded cage. Days later, the simmering tension between Nanan and Jian-Wan finally boiled over. Nanan found her sister rifling through her belongings, a triumphant smirk on her face. Looking for something? Nanan asked, her voice dangerously calm. Jian-Wan straightened, holding up a small, antique locket. Just admiring your acquisitions, she sneered. You've certainly landed on your feet, haven't you? Put it down, Jian-Wan, Nanan warned, her patience wearing thin. Or what? Jian-Wan challenged, her eyes glittering with malice. You'll tell Daddy. He already thinks you're beneath us. You pushed me too far, Nanan's voice was low and dangerous. The fight was swift and brutal, fueled by years of simmering resentment. They grappled, the locket falling to the floor with a dull thud. In the ensuing struggle, a hidden compartment sprung open, revealing a faded photograph. Jian-Wan snatched the photograph, her eyes widening in disbelief. This is impossible, she stammered, her face paling. Nanan snatched the photograph back. It was a picture of a young woman, her face strikingly similar to Nanan's, holding a baby. On the back, a handwritten inscription, My precious Nanan, with love, Mama. The truth slammed into Nanan with the force of a physical blow. The whispers, the veiled threats, Mu Ching Fong's chilling smile, it all clicked into place. She wasn't just a convenient bride. She was a pawn in a much larger game, a game involving secrets that stretched back decades. I'll kill you, Jian-Wan hissed, her voice laced with venom. You took everything from me. Nanan stared at her sister, a cold certainty settling in her heart. I'm your sister-in-law, she stated, the words heavy with meaning. And you have no idea what you've unleashed.